up and running. I've got my phone, so I'm going to make sure I can see you guys commenting and checking out the broadcast, and I see me. There I am. Let's make sure that I'm muted. There we go. Alrighty, and I think I can get your comments on here maybe. Let me see. So there we go. I see you guys. There you are. Alrighty. Well, it is great to have everybody here on this Friday, almost the last Friday in December, not quite, but happy solstice to everyone. Winter officially begins today in the Northern Hemisphere. Those of you who watch me down under in Australia and all parts in the Southern Hemisphere are enjoying summer. It's crazy to think about that. It's just crazy. So happy summer solstice, happy winter solstice, wherever you are in this great big beating world. Okay, so you guys, I'm also going to pull up the YouTube channel here because I think we are streaming on YouTube as well in all three locations. You can see behind me, my office is looking a little sparse, but that's okay because, as you guys may know, we are moving, which is really exciting and fun for us. We'll be moving in January. More about that to come on our in our newsletters and stuff like that. We're not moving far, just right across the freeway, but we have larger offices, larger a dedicated filming studio, so much fun stuff. So a lot of really great stuff is going to be happening there. I'm just pulling up YouTube here, and yes, I can see that I am live now. That's fantastic. And I can see that you guys are watching over there on YouTube also. Great. Hello to everybody. Great. I see everyone. I love this part. So we've got all of us here, and today I'm going to share with you one of my favorite seed bead stitches. Now, those of you who have watched Facebook Live for a while know that our Emily is a seed bead savant, right? She's awesome. She knows how to do all the seed bead stitches, and then when she teaches them, I sit there right next to her and learn along with you guys. Well, Peyote stitch is the seed bead stitch that I've had in my repertoire for a really long time. And it's the first stitch I learned, and I think it's super, super easy. Even easier than regular peyote stitch is this Freeform peyote. And I'll hold up the bead that I've been working on here. Flat Freeform is super easy, but I feel like Freeform in the round is the easiest thing you can do with seed beads because you can't screw up. Once you lay that baseline down with a row of beads, then you just start adding beads to your heart's content. Make it as whimsical as you can. So I have some samples down here that we're going to take a look at. So without further ado, let me go ahead and move the camera here so you guys can kind of see what I'm seeing. I'm going to scoot this all around, and there we have it. Look how I had it all together today, you guys. I had a little extra time for my prep, so so that was good. So it's pretty seamless, I think, I hope, anyway. Well, hello to everybody. It's great to have you all here. Let me get the branding off the screen here so everybody can see that. But I did want to mention to all of you guys, just as a reminder, those of you who are new to watching us, welcome. It's great to have everybody here. I'm scrolling through to see who's here. Oh my gosh, we've got so many people from all over. We've got Suzanne from Finland, and we've got our friend Michelle Leonardo. Hi, Michelle. You guys may remember Michelle is the maker of a beautiful cuff project that was on the cover of Bead and Button magazine, and Janice and I interviewed Michelle on our Facebook Live. You can find that in the archives of our live broadcasts. It was really great. It's great to see you, Michelle. It's great to have you guys here. And a bunch of you guys from on YouTube. Rare breed from Louisiana. My little grand was born and raised in Louisiana. It has a near and dear place in my heart. I love it. And bonsoir to Brigitte. It's great to have everybody here. Awesome. So welcome, welcome, welcome to all of you guys. Alrighty, so let me show you real quick. Let me make some sense out of what's going on here on my table here. Let me see real quick if I can brighten this up just a hair. So bear with me here. I think that's a little brighter. Hopefully that doesn't look too blown out. Is it a little bright? I don't know. I can't tell. Is that better? That might, I don't know. Let's try this and see how it looks. And if you guys think it's too bright or too blown out, I can change it up. Let me know what you guys think on that. Or maybe I need to just pull up the contrast here a little bit. Maybe that's better. Let me see. No, that might be a little blown out. There we go. That looks pretty good, I think. You guys let me know. First is better? Okay. Then bear with me here. I'll go right here, and there it is. Okay. I'm so excited to have my dedicated filming studio soon, because we will have many of these issues resolved then. So let me show you guys what I've got here in front of me, and you guys can kind of see the different component parts that I've got. So I'm starting. Let me start with the tools that I've got. And a couple of you talked about my workspace here that I've got in front of me, and I just wanted to show you guys. I just made this at home out of a little. This is one of those little plant holders, like plant, you know, saucers or whatever. It's copper, little copper thing. I think I might have picked it up at the maybe the thrift store. And then here, what I did was I got a plate. I had some scrap leather, kind of suede on one side, leather on the other. And I took the plate and I put the plate down, and I used my rotary cutter to cut out this nice round circle. And it fits perfectly right into this little tray. And I like the tray. It has a little lip, so it's real small, so I can take it around, and it makes it really easy to carry this stuff around. So I think it's easy as a good workspace. I also have some thread snips here. If you guys don't have the thread snips, these are perfect for cutting these fine little, the KO thread that I'm using. And speaking of threads, I am using KO. Here's the KO here. You could also use Fireline if you wanted. You could also use, you guys, if you have seen on our website, we have a product called Superlon D. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm going to start working more in earnest with the Superlon D as we get into next year, because I love it. It's the skinny version of Ceylon. It's kind of like the old school Nymo, and we sell it in these tubes of colors, and then we just sell it in black, white, and brown, I think. But it's also, the Superlon D is a great thread choice for this. You could, in a pinch, even use Micro Ceylon, which I think might be a little bit big, but if you're using larger beads like 6/0 and 8/0, it would work out well. So yeah, Superlon D, I love it. And then, of course, I just have a few other little tools around here. I've got a triangle, and I'm using size 10. Actually, I said size 10, but these are actually size 12 that I've got in front of me. So either 10s or 12, the seed beads will work. I mean, seed bead needles will work. All right. And over on the blog, if you check out our blog, the bead table, you can just Google bead table blog, or it's linked on the front page of our website at beadshop.com. I listed all of these ingredients, okay? So you can find the ingredients list, everything, all over there. And then after the broadcast, I will, I'll go ahead and link the video there as well. So let me pull the bead here to the center so you guys can really see it, and I'll talk about the colors and stuff that I'm using. So here's the bead right here. And I used as the base one of my, we call them the New England wood beads. They're US made, really nice quality wood bead, and we have them in 3 different sizes. I used the oblong one, the oblong oval one, for this shape of the bead. And then the beads that I used along the outside, I used a variety of seed beads. The mustard opaque that I have here, it's the 1233 right here. I used those guys. And then I used the dyed rose bronze silver lined alabaster. It's beautiful. It's the 8-641, which is great. I also used the gilding matte in 11-aught here. And then the thing that I really love about the Freeform Peyote is you can use all kinds of other beads with it too, and it's preferable that you do. I used a 4mm polychrome rose, which I adore. This finish is so good. I chose this bronzed hematite, hematite rondelle in the bronzed color, but we also have it, you guys, in the copper, which I don't know, I might actually like better, or in the golden, which also works. So any of these bronzed hematite strands would work beautifully. Then into my mix, I threw, of course, what did I throw? These brass little shadows. I've been using them in my beads. You'll see when I pull some old beads in here that I've used them forever. So these guys, it's the little shadows are the great size. And then I also have some of the Tirahishi. You could also use our tribal hishi, whichever one you like, and I used it in the brass. So, and I also, last but not least, used a tiny little Delica, an 11-aught. This one is the DB 0022L. It's the light bronze, I think. I also used, I think it was the light beige silver lined as well. They're both linked in the materials list, but anything that works will be just fine. But you need a few of these 11-aughts to kind of fill in your space. It doesn't have to be a Delica. It could just be a round Rocal bead. Doesn't matter. Delica or a regular round 11-aught will also work. Okay. So let me pull these old guys into the shot here so you can see these that I've made. I'm going to get real up close and personal here so you guys can see these kind of up close. I made these, I don't know, 1 billion years ago, you guys. These beads are probably at least 20 years old. Way back in the day when I used to teach this at Bead Shop. And you can see here how this bead, true to form for me, I have little shadows, little brass shadows in those. And you can see I've got an 11-aught, this I think is an 8-aught, another 8-aught. These might even be, no, they're hex cuts is what those guys are. And you can see I've done, it's a little hard to see, but I've done a 2 and 3 drop peyote here. And so this is a little less freeform and just kind of a multiple drop going in all the way around. But then I came back in and I just stitched these little kind of nubby bits over the top of that. Okay. This guy, again, just a 3 drop stripey bead. Again, with some stitching over the top with the other, some little extra seed beads. This one was fun, more of a 2 drop, and then I really went wild with kind of getting these 5 rows of beads stitched all over the top of these guys. Again, another 2 and 3 drop. This was kind of elongated shape, but it had some sides to it. And you can see, I guess I was really into stitching around the top. another elongated one with those stitches. And then here truly is kind of a freeform where I just kind of had a little bit of a bead soup and just stitched them in. Ellen was asking on the Facebook feed, did I dye the beads first? And you know what? I didn't actually on these. You can tell a little bit that there's some bead, some wood bead underneath there. But you could always dye them using, like Emily did for her netted beads. We used the alcohol inks. You could use permanent marker. There's, a lot of ways that you could dye these. You could even paint them with acrylic paint and let them dry. It just depends on what you like. But the beads that I've done here, I've not painted. But you could, if you wanted. Okay, so let me put these aside, and let me open this up a little bit bigger, and let's take a look now at the beads that I've created, or that I am creating. So I pulled this color palette. I'll be really honest, I had kind of a mishmash of beads that I had kind of been playing around with, and so I had kind of limited choices because I started these at home. So I just kind of pulled these together, and I kind of loved them. It's kind of a delicate palette, kind of old-fashioned, a little bit retro. So I'm kind of loving it. This kind of pink and yellow, with a little bit of shine to it. I'm liking. So then this was the one that I completed first. This guy over here, and now those of you who have been following this journey over on our private Facebook group on the bead table, I've been working on this guy, this round one. And you can see, again, it's coming together. And you can see that the size of the finished bead, you can see it especially here, that the beads add a lot of bulk to this bead. So where this wood bead looks a little small and this guy looks a little big, it's the same bead base underneath there. Okay. So there's that. So here's this guy that I'm working on, and we're going to get to this in a second. But I want to show you how I start. All right. So what I've done is I've cut a piece of KO. I don't know, maybe about a yard or so. Here, let me pull this more to the fore. Let me clean up a little bit. It's a little messy mess here, so you guys can see what's going on. There we go. That's better. So I've got my small wood round, okay, and I've got my KO. I have lightly waxed it, and I've strung my needle. And then what I did was, since this is freeform and this bead is round, if you don't put these little spokes of thread around your bead, your stitching is going to want to fall off, okay? So that is a real good reason for putting these little spokes down. And you'll see as I start to stitch how those really help to keep things in place. But essentially what I do is I just started, see here's this loose piece of thread, and I just started stitching all the way through my wood bead, and just keeping it kind of, the tension kind of tight. I'll finish up here, just stitch through the center. So you've got all these little spokes that are sitting down all around the bead. And I know you're asking me, Kate, how many of those spokes did you make? I don't know, I made enough so it would kind of fill in the bead. I'll count. 2, 4, 6, 7. I'm going to do one more here with this tail. This will be 8. And so to make the 8th one, I just grab the tail that I have here. I bring the tail around, and I'm going to tie a knot. And I can kind of tie it up here at the top. Doesn't really matter. And I'll tie a half hitch and then another one on top. So I've done a full square knot just like that. So it's nice and tight. And then I can move things around a little bit if I want. The placement of these spokes isn't so critical. It just needs to be kind of consistent. So you've got, threads kind of evenly around. So that's it there. Okay, so and then this knot just stays tight. And then this little tail, what I can do if I want, because sometimes it kind of bugs me a little bit, I'll lift up and I'll slide this tail underneath, if I can get it underneath. There we go. And then maybe I'll do that one more time, lift it up. And then this tail, I'll just stitch over. I could knot it off too, whatever. However you want to deal with this. Or you could weave it in later. But if I stitch it underneath, it's going to be fine. And so I'm going to leave myself a little bit of, I'm going to cut a little bit of this away because it's kind of irritating. But this will get all stitched in and I won't have to worry about it later. And I could put a drop of glue on here, but I'm not gonna. You don't really need it. All right. So now I'm ready to stitch. Okay. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to start at the middle of one of these spokes, wherever you want it to be. Choose one, bring it around, and then kind of go underneath once and underneath twice. This is still the continuing thread that I use to make all these spokes with. Okay, so can you see it wants to slide a little bit, but it's all right. You're in charge there, so you just kind of keep that thread there. Then I'm going to bring my little mix. Maybe I'll just bring this guy right in here. Get these out of the way for a second. Put them over there. Stay here. There we go. So now for the center core, I'm going to use all the same bead for my first stitch all the way around. And the bead I like to use, since I'm kind of thinking of it as my base bead, is the dyed rose bronze alabaster. So I'm going to pick up a few of those, maybe 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. I'm going to bring them underneath that second spoke and around, or underneath the second spoke there. See how it's kind of in the center? And now I'm going to bring that thread underneath that spoke again, and it tightens it up. Now don't worry about tension so much right now, you guys. Just try and make your beads fit around the equator of this bead pretty evenly. Okay, there it goes. I'm going to flip it under. And the spokes, you can kind of move around to match your length of the beads that you're putting on the needle, right? But I've been putting on like 4, so that seems like a good default for me for right now, right? And let's put these guys on 1, 2, 3, 4, and again under the spoke. I'm checking in on all of your comments here. Yes, Janet is saying that Sharpie markers are alcohol inks. Yes, actually, in fact, they actually really are, just in pen form. I use Sharpie marker for a lot of crafty related items, and they come in a million colors. I actually have a little cup of them right here on my desk, so I find them super handy. Terry also asked, has Emily done any tutorials on various stitches? Yeah, what you can do, Terry, if you haven't already, you can go to our Facebook Live page, our archive, either on YouTube or on Facebook or on our website, beadshop.com. And if you search a summer titled Seed Bead School, but there's a whole bunch of tutorials there that Emily has. If you also go under our Facebook Live projects on our website, or our projects in general, you'll see Seed Bead School there, and there are links to a bunch of the stitches that Emily has done. We've done a lot of really fun stuff there. Okay, so I'm almost at the end of my bead here, right? And I can see kind of visually, I can measure with my eye that this is about, I'm going to say it's about 4 beads wide here. Okay, so I'm going to pick up 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I said 4. There we go. I'm going to bring it under that spoke. Let's tighten everything up and see how it looks. Yeah, that looks about right. Okay. So now I'm going to bring it under one more time to just secure it. There we go. Now I'm going to go all the way around with my needle, okay, to really just kind of even everything out. If there's a little bit of space, we don't want a lot of space, but a tiny bit of space doesn't make much difference. Okay, so here we go, coming through. And again, all of the materials, you guys, are listed on our blog on the bead table. There'll also be a link to it after the broadcast is live. Karen will take a photo and she'll post it on the front page of our website at beadshop.com. Okay. So now I've gone all the way around the equator. Come back here. And I'm kind of pulling this in tight, and you can see how I have like a gap of like one bead here-ish? I'm just going to pick up that one bead that I think will fit. Then I'll put my needle through, and there we go. That'll pop down when I go in to stitch a little bit later. Okay? Or if you feel like you don't need it, don't put it on. But I think I'm just going to leave it right there. Alrighty. Look at that, Ellen. Thank you so much for linking that. I really, really appreciate it. Okay, there we go. So now, here comes the peyote stitch part, you guys. Now, take a deep breath with me. You can see I've used up quite a bit of that thread, so I still have enough. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I still have enough to use, probably to get all the way around one more time. Okay? So now, the mantra for Freeform peyote, or peyote in general, is pick up a bead, skip a bead, stitch through a bead. Alright? So here's I've picked up a bead. It's this one. Get in a little tighter. You can really see it. Skip a bead. That's this one here. And stitch through the bead. The next bead. So see what happens? As I kind of tighten this up, see how that bead that I've just put on displaces the bead below it? And so now I have 1, 2, 3 rows on this bead. And now we just keep going. Pick up a bead, skip the next bead, and stitch through the bead after that. And don't worry if this is sliding around a little bit or whatever. It will, maybe, a little bit as you're working. That's the beauty of these spokes. I can come back around again and, kind of connect it to the spoke coming down so things aren't moving up and down too much. Pick up a bead, skip a bead, stitch through a bead. And tighten. Firm tension. Not so tight that you're going to strangle your project here. Pick up a bead, skip a bead, stitch through. I can stitch again under this spoke if things are moving around a little bit. Tighten it up. And for those of you who are wondering, yes, I did mention it before, but I did wax this thread. I like waxing my threads, especially for this peyote stitch. It helps, make the thread a little sticky, and helps keep it where I want to put it. And the spokes of this are waxed, so as I go around with the thread to kind of bind it together, it helps keep that in place. Okay, there we go. Pick up a bead, skip a bead, stitch through. But what if you're ready now? You're like, that's great, but where can I start adding more beads, Kate? You can start adding more beads right now. So let's do this. I'm going to add one of these. Let me make it a little bit bigger now that you've seen it so up close. Let me add one of these, my precious brass shadows. Pick up a bead, skip this bead, stitch through. Okay. Maybe I'll add 2 of those in a row. I don't know. Make it up as you go along. The thing about Freeform Peyote, you guys, is that you want to really work immediately in the moment to figure out what bead goes next on here, but you also want to think a little further ahead as well as to like the spaces and stuff that you're creating for future beads to drop into. Okay. I see a couple of comments on here that people are saying that their comments aren't showing up on Facebook during this live broadcast. If that's your issue, make sure that you're not on quiet mode. Sometimes if you're watching on your mobile device, you need to swipe left to bring those comments back up. That may be the issue. You can also just jump out of the feed and come back in, and that may help. Okay? Sometimes Facebook is a little persnickety, and that's just how it goes. You'll see the 2 11-aughts here. I put on 2 11-aughts, which equal about 1 8-aught. I'm going to stick it through this bead, and you can see that those 2 11-aughts nestle there pretty nicely. And that's the bead that I added in earlier to kind of fill in that gap. It's a little off center, but it's no big deal. I'm going to add an 8-aught. You can see the 8-aught in the mustard is a little skinnier than the 8-aught in the alabaster, the rose bronze alabaster. But that's okay, this is Freeform, so that is also even a help. So I'm going to put one of those there. Okay, and then we're just going to keep going. Alrighty. Pick up a shadow. I'm going to do a shadow here. And stitch it through. See, sometimes I need to kind of stitch through at an angle to really get that through. And no worries about the comments, you guys. I love that you're all transfixed. It's just fine, but I wanted to make sure and address that comments issue just in case. Alrighty. Pick up a bead, skip a bead, stitch through a bead, and next. And pick up a bead, skip a bead, stitch through the bead, and here we are. Now, you could have an even number. I'm back right where I started. You could have an even number or an odd number of beads here. Doesn't really make much difference because you just kind of compensate and take another stitch. So watch what I mean. So see here, I'm going to go through. This is where that bead belongs, so I'll go through with one. Pick up a bead, skip a bead, go through this guy right here. But now I've got kind of this funny spot. See right here? This is where I went through. There's a little bit of an extra bead here that I've skipped. Then it kind of goes up there, and then there's my step-up bead. I look at this as a great opportunity for adding a bead that would really fit in there. You know what would fit in there? A 4mm polychrome copper rose. So I'm going to put it in, and can you see naturally where I want to put the needle? Right? Probably I don't want to stitch through this bead. Probably I don't want to stitch through that bead because the 4mm bead is kind of big. So I'm going to go for that bead right there. Okay, does that make sense? So grab your bead, make sure that your 4mm is on there, grab your needle, and just sail it through. And I'm going to nestle it right in. That's it. Done and done. Now, I'm just going to keep going. Maybe I feel like I need a two more 11-aughts. So I'm going to do that. And see how that's made kind of a low, kind of single plane there? You can add another big bead there on your next go round. Doesn't matter, whatever. It really is, you guys, now you just stitch. I'm going to throw in a couple of Hishi right there. I like the looks of those bad boys. I'm going to throw in 2 more because I like an intentional repeat. I don't know. You make it up. You know how it goes. Whoops, if it gets caught around there, it's great to have an awl, or just keep an eye out for wayward thread, okay, so that it doesn't go around your bead and kind of hold you up there. All right. Rosie's asking, can you leave holes to make it look lacy? I don't see why not. If I were going to leave an intentional hole, Rosie, I might go down here into that bead. Get my thread from around there. Come on. Then come up this bead. You can see my hole is left there, and when I come back around to stitch, I'll just kind of join from here to here and leave that opening open. Yeah, try it out. Like I said, Freeform Peyote, the ultimate in ease. That's kind of a nice big open space, so I'm going to put 2 of my bronzed hematites there. Now, as your bead starts to curve, can you see this on the profile? You're going to start to want to pull your peyote stitch in a little more tightly, right? Because you need to reduce. And on this smallest bead that I'm using, you want to reduce actually pretty quickly because you don't want this top row, this next row that you're putting on, to kind of flap around. But you don't need to reduce a lot, just a little. I have these gilding matte 11-aughts. Let me open them up here. I know that I'm going to get them all over the place if I'm not careful. There we go. These are great to help pull all of these together. Okay, so here's my 11-aught. And I'm putting an 11-aught on. This connection, the space, I don't know, it's a little small, or maybe I like the metal next to the metal, whatever. But see how when I pull it tight, it makes that opening just a little smaller. So I'm going to do 1 more of the single right next to it because I like the way that this section of metal all looks together. And I'm going to finish off with 1 last 11-aught there. So like I say, you kind of have to plan both immediately as you're stitching as well as for the row that's coming up, okay? And can you see how these 2 11-aughts that I put on together, I just stitched through them as if they were one. I want another block of yellow there, so I'm going to put another 8-aught and stitch through. There we go. And maybe I'll go back to the rows. So now, you just keep going until you start to run out of thread. Now I know that this is bringing a flutter to the hearts of many. We don't like to add thread to our projects, but it's okay. I'm going to show you how to do it. All right. Go through. I think I have enough to deal with this little section here with this 4-aught or this 4mm. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bead right there. I like how this is. And I just go through the hole. Now, stay tuned because we're going to deal with this on the second go round. But I'm going to come on this side. This really, I probably want to go through either 1 or 2 of those beads. So maybe I'll try another 8-aught and see what it looks like. I could also put some 11-aughts there. I don't know. There we go. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, that's okay. Great. So now I've got, you know, some thread left. All right? It's about time for me to start weaving back through. So I'm just going to come in and I'm just going to go through. I'm going to go through that bead. I'll go through this bead. I'll go through that bead. I'll turn the corner. Go through that bead. Go through this bead. Go through that bead. Go through there and stitch it back one more time. Those two. So I've turned the corner twice. There we go. And I'm going to come in with my thread snips. Clip it away. All right. There we go. That thread is taken away. Now we've got to add a thread. So I have another needle already threaded here. Whoops, that's not the right one. Where did it go? Here it is. Got another needle threaded here with my, whoops, the thread's kind of long and it's tangled in all my beads here, with my waxed KO. And I can start, you guys, anywhere I want. And I do want to show you how I'm going to deal with this bead here. So I'm going to start my thread a little bit back here, and then we'll pop it out here and I'll show you what I do. So I'm going to just insert my thread wherever. I don't know, those two beads look like a good place. So I'm going to go through. I'm going to pull this up so I have a little bit of a tail. I don't need that much. I'll put my finger on the tail and I'll come back through so I'm making a circle. And back up the two that I just went through earlier. Nice and tight. Now I'm just going to weave this thread back to where I want to go. There. I'm doing two at a time, coming up at a diagonal. No big deal. Okay. Now this is pretty secure. See how I'm pulling on that? Nothing's coming out. So I'm just going to come in, get this tail out of my way, clip it. And this one, you know, I think it's not going to go anywhere. So whoops. So I'm going to go ahead and clip that a little bit shorter as well. There we go. Alrighty. So, where's my needle? There it is. So here I am, right here where that 4mm bead was. Alright, I've got a pretty big bridge to make here. So I'm just going to go ahead and I think I'm going to use 11/0. And I think I'll use my gilding matte 11/0. And my experience tells me that 4 of these 11/0 should make that bridge across. And my experience was wrong. It should be 3. So let me do that. Take one off. And I'm going to go out from that bead. The 11/0 are going to sit right there. Look at that. And look what a pretty curve they make. Coming back around, I can peyote stitch just through 2 of them if I want. This is another place. This is kind of another big space here. I have another 4mm polychrome copper rose that just wants to sit there. So let's let it. There we go. Look at that. How pretty they look offset. Let's get another, I want to move this all so I don't stab myself. Go back to one of my base beads. The base bead I'm saying is this bronze rose bronze alabaster. But just decide, you know, how much color and variation in a theme you want. I'm going to go through this one as well. And if it feels right to skip a bead, you know, stitch through a bead and skip a bead or whatever, do what feels right. This is the ultimate in kind of beading by the seat of your pants. I'm going to stitch through all of those because I don't think it's time to come up and over those yet. I'll get them on the next round. And just come through here. And with this little 11-aught, I'll just go through it. Maybe. My needle wants to. They're hollow, so they like to be sometimes difficult to go through. Trish, I didn't use 6/aughts, but you certainly could use 6s, especially if you use a larger base bead, right? I just use these guys because, again, when I made this palette, I made it at home from beads that I kind of had hanging around. So, so I went with what I kind of had. But you could throw in some 6/aughts for sure, because these 4/aughts, I mean, these 4mm are big as well. Okay, so let's repeat. Repeating in Freeform Peyote is always a good thing, I think. Some little intentional repeats. So I'm going to put those two on there, and then a single one of these mustard ones. Yeah, and you just keep going, you guys, until you fill in all the spaces there. All right, so let's take a look at this other large one that I have here. Let me set this guy aside for just a second. Open the frame up a little bit. Let's take a look at this one that I've about halfway completed. Okay. What I have here is, you can see all that freeform, some of the intentional repeats that I did before, and the Hishi and the 4mm. As I go up and continue to bring my, continue my rows one after the other, I start to add more single beads. You can see kind of in there. So it helps me reduce my rows. And as you come around, you can see this last row I used, a bunch of, I don't know, I think I used 3 of those 11-aughts, 1 of these, 2 of the 11-aughts, 1 gilding mat, 3 of these guys. So you just kind of tighten it up. That's it. And you can see it's not a perfect round circle, okay? And it's just going to go right in there just fine. And then I just wove it back like I did here. Now I'm ready to just weave the other side. And you can go back and forth. You don't have to complete one complete half if you don't want to. But I kind of like working from the halfway part, closing it up, and then pushing the bead down so it, it's ready. So when I close this side up, it's nice and tight around the bead. As far as size for Freeform, Rosie was asking, I think it was Rosie, is 4mm the largest that you might use? Not necessarily. I might go up to a 6mm if I wanted something kind of bulbous and big. You could also use like some flat beads. 5mm rondelles would work really well. It just depends on what floats your boat. And these beads are so small that if it's starting to look a little, not quite right, just cut it up, remix it, and do it again. Not that big of a deal. You haven't invested that much time here. So I would just continue to go around, and I very quickly stop going underneath the spokes, but you just stitch around it and the spokes are all hidden under your stitching here. Okay? So that, you guys, is really it. You just keep stitching around and adding beads and adding more thread as you need it. But that's how really simple it is to do Freeform Peyote. Do a mix of beads. Whatever mix works for you. And yeah, O beads I think would look really good, really nice. You can also, like if I wanted, if I needed to come back through and close up a space or something, if I had something really showing, you just kind of stitch through, put on a couple beads, and stitch back through. That's how I did these guys here that have the little nubby things on them. Okay, I actually completed the bead first, and then I came back through and stitched these guys on over the top. So any of those will work. This is a great stash buster. If you've done a bead mix and you have kind of the dregs of that mix left, or the dregs of a project left, it's a great way to use it up, right? Really, really simple. But remember, the essence of this stitch is add a bead, skip a bead, and go through a bead. And then it's whatever variation of that little chant that you do. Yeah, and dragon scales, Tammy's saying dragon scales. Dragon scales would look amazing on these guys, I think. They would look really nice. Give it some texture. So there we go. So I want to show you guys kind of my next steps, what I'm going to do with these. I'm going to come up. Let me just show you this one last thing. Coming up through these. I'm going to go through all 3 of these. Remember those little 3 gilding matte ones I put on over that 4mm? I'm going to put on through, and then I'll add another one of these guys. There we go. So that's how I dealt with that. Done and done. Okay, really, really simple. All right, let me show you what I'm thinking about with this. Yeah, Kate, what are you thinking? Well, I'm going to show you. The beads I'm going to use. And Trish, all of the materials are listed on our blog, but the base beads I'm using are our wood beads, our New England rounds. I was using the smallest one, and then we have an oblong one and a larger one. So those guys are all there. Under my right hand, I moved my right hand. These guys, I don't know. I missed it. But let me show you what I'm going to do with these guys. Get this out of the way. I think what I'm going to make for myself when this is done, because I like a big statement collar, and you guys have seen these beads that I was using in our my tribal collar necklace that I was making a couple of weeks ago on Facebook Live. So these are those bone beads that I was doing with that necklace. And I think I want kind of a simple backdrop for these guys when they're finished. Maybe I'll offset them kind of like that. I don't know. But I think, whoops, let me get more in frame. More in frame. More in frame. There we go. So I think that's what I'm going to do with this. These in my hand now. These are the wood, right, the wood beads, and then these are the arpadres in mustard. So I think I'm going to throw some of those in too. So it'll be all kind of mixed up a little bit. And I think I might make a total of 5 of these guys. This guy, and maybe 2 more of these small ones. We'll see how far I get with it. And then the clasp that I'll use will be this 3-strand vertical Clio. I don't know. Maybe in brass, maybe in copper. I don't know. And I'll string it on Softflex. So that's what's going to go. And then if I feel like it, then I probably will have some beads left over. I can throw in, you know, a little bit of the tribal hishi or whatever I want in here, or a little bit of shadows to pull the metal out. But I think it'll be nice. A nice 3-strander, not too long, but I think it'll work out. So we'll see how much time I have to get this done. But I'd like to get this done soon because I want to wear it. I think it'll look pretty cool. So that's what's going to happen with it. So you guys, again, I hope you enjoyed this Free Tip Friday. It was so great to spend some time with you guys today before our holiday break. Our shop, of course, will be open from now through the end of the year. The online shop doesn't close down, but we are taking, the staff is taking a well-earned break, And so we are off Christmas Eve, that's Monday, and Christmas Day, that's this upcoming Tuesday. But we will be back on Wednesday for the final Facebook Live broadcast of the year. I have a fantastic project for you. It's going to be a good wrap it up kind of a project then. And we'll be back in full force. So if you put in a customer service question and stuff on Monday and Tuesday, we will not be checking our emails. We are going to try and really take some time off to recharge. But I wanted to say thank you very much. I'm going to pull this around so you guys can see me. There we go. Here I am. I wanted to say thank you so much, as I mentioned on Facebook Live this Wednesday, our live broadcast. We wanted to really thank you so much for all of your support over this past year. We couldn't do what we're doing here at beadshop.com without your support, and we really, really appreciate the support of our small business. There's just, you know, a little over a handful of us here, but we work really hard for you, and we really, really appreciate all of your support and kind words over the holiday season, and all of your good wishes. We really, really appreciate that. So that's it, you guys. Check it out. The blog post will be up with the video shortly. Karen will have all of this linked on the homepage. And happy solstice to everyone here. Winter is starting for us, which is a cozy time of year here in the Bay Area. So I think we're all going to really enjoy that, as well as the Christmas holidays. So safe and happy Christmas to those who celebrate, and stay safe, stay warm, and I will be back on Wednesday with another live broadcast. See you guys soon. Happy holidays.